Now, if you're like me and you use Microsoft Intune to deploy software, sometimes it's a little frustrating. So on today's episode, I'm going to check out Robopack. This is absolutely amazing and totally blew me away when it comes to software packaging and distribution. Check it out. Greetings, welcome to the channel. Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP. On today's episode, we're talking about software packaging and distribution. Traditionally, we use products like Microsoft 365's Intune, and it's great at deploying software, managing devices, and so on, as well as the security of those. But sometimes Microsoft products, like them all, can be a little bit frustrating, they can be a little bit slow, and they do have limitations. And this is where kind of third-party products come in. And I've discovered a little product called Robopack. And I gotta take my hat off to these guys. It absolutely rocks when it comes to easily packaging software and very quickly distributing it. In addition, you can also have multiple versions of the software available, whereas a traditional update in Intune, for example, it's either version 2 or version 3. Here you can make multiple versions available. So in this video, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about Robopack and deploying software in a really super quick, easy environment. Now, if you haven't subscribed, we would love you to come on board. Bump the subscribe button up there, ring the bell, and come and join my learning community. And if you have questions or comments about this, or in fact any of my other sessions, as always, get those down below. So, I think without any more jibber jabber, I think it's about time we jump in and check out Robopack. Here we go. Okay, so don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Intune. And when you come into the apps node here, again, we can browse apps by the different operating systems. So for example, iPad, iOS, you've got Mac OS, you've got Android apps, you've got Windows, and you can add an app in, of course. You can select the app type. I always felt that this should say more or less where the app is coming from. And it will then go off and it will get the app. So whether you're getting the apps from Winget, from the different stores, essentially you can click onto that and it will then say, yep, I want to select this. And again, you can click on search the app store here and you can see that Win32 apps in the app store are currently only available in preview. And also, when you start searching the App Store, you'll notice it's not entirely, I always feel it's not overly intuitive. So if I click on, for example, Zoom Workplace, there's an awful lot of clicks that you have to do. And you can see it's not, already, it says it's not a valid package. Okay, so what I want to do is just show you an alternative. So I'm going to come into Robopack, and all I've done here is I've just connected my account. I've got an account here called Jean-Luc Picard. I'm a big Trekkie, as you know. And I'm just using single sign-on straight in to my Intune account here connected to Robopack. So on the main screen, again, I love it because it's super simple. You can convert older applications, of course, for example, old Windows applications, which is a great feature, into Win files. And of course, you can also customize with this tool as well by adding scripts and bundling them. You can also browse the instant apps, and I'll show you that in a second. You can also scan Intune as well. So this will scan and show you all the apps that you currently have in Intune. I'll come back to that. So where do we want to create the packages from? Well, if I go into recent packages here, you can see here's a little selection of just some of the recent packages that I brought in. So things like Adobe Reader, Google Chrome, and the new Global Secure Access, and of course, LibreOffice. You can also, if you're connected, by the way, in hybrid, you can also use the Endpoint Configuration Manager node here. And this is a great little tool to help you connect to that and then import those tools or import those apps in here. You can also do bulk imports of app packages in. How cool is that? And You can also patch the apps as well, and you can create your own patch flows and groups that you want to deploy those patches to. So let's keep it nice and simple. Let's have a look first of all at instant apps. So in the instant apps here, let's say I'm looking for Zoom. So very popular app. You can see, again, there's a number of flavors of it, but just this time it's so much more intuitive. So whether you want a traditional 32 or 64-bit version, whether you want Zoom Rooms, whether you want, for example, the client, virtual desktop client, that's always a bit tricky, and also the Universal Windows app here. I'm going to go for the Zoom executable, and you can see basically I will go and analyze this, and it says, okay, so first of all, this is something that Intune doesn't do. It doesn't offer you all the different versions. And the cool thing about this is you can actually install different versions to different groups of users, which is super cool. So I can choose 86 versions, so 32-bit, 64, or if you're running it on an ARM processor, again, you can simply select that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on import for the 64-bit version, and you can see there's an option here. Do you want to wrap any kind of scripts in here as well? By the way, it's using typical PowerShell application deployment toolkit there. So the PSADT, and you can see that's the latest version of the script here. So again, you can choose what scripting you want to use. So I'm going to click on continue, and it says, hey, scan the options, import it into Robopack, and at the same time, import it into Intune. Again, look at that with a single click. That is just so cool. For this demo, I'm just going to simply import the app. Everything's come in, it looks good. And again, I can scroll down. It's got the detection rules here, so this registry setting needs to be put in place. You can also test the installer script as well. You can view it if you want to. Again, I can test it, so yep, go ahead and do a quick test on that. So off it goes. It will test the script to work in our environment, and it will just let me know if everything's okay or if there are any issues that I might need to look at. Now you'll notice it also uninstalls the apps as well, which is absolutely super important because that's one of the things that you want to do. So I'm absolutely happy with that. Everything's come in, looks really good. Do you want to set up the Robopatch option? I'm going to go ahead. I'm happy. I'll just want to simply install this into Intune. You can see here's my tenant, so the robopatchdemo.com. If you want to connect it to a different tenant, again, I can do that as well. And again, I'm just going to continue. Again, do you want to create any deployment assignments? So check it out. It's saying, do you want to deploy it to any specific users here? Absolutely. That is so cool. So I've got a group already created here of devices. This is my next coffee group, and I'm happy, and I'm going to go ahead and import that now into Intune. Okay, and as you can see, it's complete, it's all done. Let's just take a quick look at that. So let's come back into my Windows apps in Intune, and let's just scroll down here. Let's load a few more, and let's just give it a second. Just refresh this page. Okay, and as you can see, Zoom has now come in. Click onto that, and not only do we have all the properties, so everything that I've asked for and packaged, but again, I can scroll down. You can see that detection rule has come in, any kind of dependencies, supersedence if I would have set up those different versions, and check it out. It's already assigned that to my next coffee group. So there you go. How cool and how easy is that? That's an example, my friends, of instant apps. Okay, so just before we go any further, you'll notice that we have this option here to convert a package. This is if you've got like an old Win32-bit based application that's not available in any app store and you want to just kind of have a go at converting it, you can simply drag it and drop it onto here. I'm using a Mac, so I'm not able to do that today. What I am able to do, though, is show you a real issue that we have. So I'm just going to bring in an app. I'm going to bring in Notepad++. And you can see that one thing, by the way, all the apps you'll notice that Robopack have tested, they're all verified that they're all working. And you can see that we have all of these different versions of Notepad++. And again, you can choose whether you want to analyze this or, and it will just create that package, which is absolutely fine. You might want to do that. But what do you do with the next version and the next version? How do you make those available for your users rather than just a fixed application? So one thing that you could do is you could do a script, and this is the Robopatch flow. This is very cool, actually. So as you can see, it's saying, okay, Notepad++, I've not assigned it to a group at the moment. You can see it fills in the details for me. And it would then deploy this as part of the first wave of deployment, which is definitely one of my favorite features of Robopack. And in fact, I'm just about to talk about that in a moment. An obvious one is uninstall a previous version when upgrading. Again, that's a nice option to have. And also available in uninstallation within the company portal. So if you've got registered users who are coming in on bring your own devices, that can be really useful as well. Now, of course, as you just saw there with Notepad++, there was quite a few versions. So you can actually choose here how many of those versions that you want to keep. So, the recommendation here is 3. I think that's pretty sensible. So I'm going to go off. I'm going to say, yeah, I want to create that flow. So off it goes. And you can see in this case, it already exists. In most cases, they've probably already created one. But of course, you are quite within your rights to go ahead and create a new one if you want to. And I'm going to add a deployment wave. And this is great because I can edit that, by the way. You can call it anything that you want. I'm just going to call it wave 1. This is something that you might send, you have different waves. And traditionally in Intune, actually, you can do this with the likes of Windows updates. So you can have like update rings. And this is cool because you can do this with applications as well. So you can have different versions of an application running in different waves, which is pretty sweet, actually. So do I want to deploy this to a new group or an existing group? Well, I've got some groups already. So, as you can see, it's the assignment required. So what means that a user won't obviously have a choice. Is it going to be available for the user, which means it's advertised for the user, and the user then has the option whether to remove it or install it. And then uninstall, of course, does exactly as it says on the tin. It will uninstall the application from that user's device. So again, if there's a new version and so on. So I'm going to say it's available, and I can search for my users. So do I want to choose all users or all devices? So in this case, I'm going to search for a particular user. I've got a pilot group here because this is wave 1. I'm going to call this my pilot computers. So I'm happy with that. Yep. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to add that group to this particular wave. So now we've got the options here. You can see that this is required, and it will give you some of the options here. So again, it shows you how many responses it has, shows you if it's successful, and so on. That is so cool. So again, the other thing that you might want to do now is you might want to create a second wave, and you might want to say, hey, okay, with this second wave, I might want to create a new group. Or do I want to push this out to an existing group? Again, with this wave 2, I might say, it's available, but this time it might be available to all my users. So I can add that group. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save, and I'm going to start my deployment. So off it goes, and it will then package that up for me. Alrighty, so as you can see, that deployment is finished. And it's now created the various waves complete with all of my different options, and it shows you the status that is active. Now, at any point, of course, you can go back in, you can edit that, you can refresh the status, You can skip to the next wave. So if you're happy that you can just move along to the next wave, you can pause that deployment as well. And of course, you can also delete that deployment. So you can see at the moment, this particular wave is currently being pushed out to all my pilot users, or those pilot computers there. And again, I can go in, I can take a look at that in more detail. So it shows me if there are any devices. There's no devices switched on at the moment, but you can see which users that's being pushed out to. And again, you get a nice status of that as well. So now that we've got the app, an obvious question is, what if I want to customize the app? What if I want to make any changes? What if there are any additional kind of parameters? Does the app need a license or something like that? Well, one of the things that you can do is you can come down and we have these custom settings here, and it allows you to go into the application and gain a bit more insight. So you can see the target version here, which is the version that I'm currently setting on. So you can do different settings for different versions depending on the one that you're working on. So you can say, hey, I want this to be the minimum version. I want this to be the exact match or the maximum version that we're searching for. That can be quite useful in iOS, for example. So again, the settings enabled. Again, do you want to deploy a script template? So do you want to inherit from the organization? Do you have a signing certificate for the application? You may use one of those, of course. Are there any options? So things like any dependencies that the application might have. And then here we might have some customization options here. So you can see some scripting options. So again, the install command, and then you've also got the uninstall command here as well. You can add some parameters. So for example, if you wanted, for example, a key, if the app needed a particular key, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, that might be a license key that you might need, for example. I'm not going to bother with that. Again, if you want to replace any parameters or replace any commands, you can do that. And also it shows you which registry values it's placing in here. You can go in and you can add that registry value. And what I absolutely love is the fact that you can go in here as an admin and add any keys or, for example, any additional files that the application might need, which can be bundled up here as well. Another cool feature here is that you can also add in your own PowerShell commands as well. And in fact, they don't need to be PowerShell commands. They can just be kind of text, whatever you want to put in. But you can basically push these out pre-post installation. You can put them out at the uninstallation. So there's lots of different stages that you can put those scripts in. And just an important point about this, by the way, if I was to go and add those scripts and then save those settings, it would then repackage all of that up for me. And it packages up the script as part of the application, as part of that kind of Intune file. So I don't need to then go and, think about, is the script going to run after the application and so on. So that's a really very cool feature. Now, just before I leave this, one thing that you'll notice, in fact, it's come in as a custom app setting. And if I just click back onto that category, you can see any apps that you customize. So in this case, I customize Notepad++. That would come in as a custom app. Just to say, the instant apps there, that's what I showed you earlier. And that is the same as just coming into this instant apps here. Okay, so the last feature that I want to talk about is the radar feature, and I really like this actually. So I'm just going to pop up here, and I'm currently working on a couple of different tenants here, but if I do a quick scan, what this is doing is it's now scanning Intune with radar to see what we've got. And sure enough, here's the application that I deployed. Now you can see it's an Intune app. I'm currently on version 1. At this point, I can also go in and add a customization, so I can add in a flow. You remember the flows look like this. So do you want to replace, if a new version comes out, do I want to replace it with the old version and so on. So I can go off and I could create that flow there if I want to. So that's a really nice feature. I can create a new patch group for this. I can export this out as a CSV file if I want to. If I just flip over into the other tenant here, and again, just do a quick scan with Intune, this is kind of really useful because it shows me all the apps that we have in Intune. And you can see you can add a patch flow to all of these. So these are, shows you the vendor of the app, again, whether it's a Microsoft app, discovered typically if it's on a tenant's or a client's machine or device, it will pick up that device already. And again, it will show you how many devices that piece of software is actually on. So again, you've got the option to create that flow. And finally, we have a group here of apps here that have been found but are not available for patching. Now, these are typically pay to access apps, programs like Citrix, even Global Secure Access, that are downloaded from a third-party vendor. So as I said, these are not available for automatic patching. But there we go. So there you have it, Robopack. What do you think? Really cool, isn't it? Definitely got to check it out. Visit robopack.com for more details down there. And if you've got any questions and comments, by all means, definitely come back. By the way, just one little thing. If you're an SMB or NGO, you can actually get this product for free. There you go. Okay, that's it for this time. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.